Televised music, see the feed. Synthetic prophets plant the seed. Dreaming could forget your name. Truth is treason in their game. Sleep. They call me dangerous for dreaming. They call me poison for seeing. They call me mad for breaking chains. But madness feels like freedom's name. Voices on control. They sell you safety for your soul. Algorithm priest in a holy law. Whisper softly, you don't need to know. You think you but who programmed the thought? You think you're living? By convenience, oh, we'll solve for peace. Your God is a signal, your truth's on repeat. Tightening, tightening, eyes wide shut, enlightening, enlightening. Cables thumb beneath the skin, uploading virtue, downloading sin. Free thinkers are dangerous to the wise, to the lies, to the endless touch. Free thinkers are venomous to the crown, to control, to the sacred hush. Sleep, dream, obey. Forget, we made you think you're free.
You already know what it is, man. We're back here to search some more game on the ground for them hungry hounds who just got up the pound and are ready for the next round. You better go lay down now. My bad, y'all. My dog over here acting a fool. But with that being said, y'all can see the title of this episode. This live, whatever you want to call it. Candace Owens back with more receipts. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and not waste any time. We're going to jump right into this episode. Boom. Boom. Just like that. All right, let's get it. 3, 2, 1.
Tucker Carlson gets canceled from all future Turning Point USA conferences, and you're never going to guess how they're trying to spin this. Well, you probably will guess. It's anti-Semitism. Welcome back to Candace. Happening that day. And actually, they're not even inexplicable. They could very easily be explained. It's just that the feds are kind of declining to do so. And we don't really have much information about those flights. In particular, there was one flight that had a, I would say, described as an interesting morning. It was contracted by our military. For whatever reason, this plane departed from the Biggs Army Airfield at 6:13 a.m. That's down in El Paso, Texas, right? And despite the fact that they were heading to Montana, they decided to make an unusual dip.
What's good, Sandar? Said tapping in from Australia. Hey, you already know what it is, man. Shout out to Australia.
At 9:16
Never been there before,
a.m.
but I heard a lot about the kangaroos.
Again, this is in Utah time, okay? We're doing all this in mountain time. They dipped down to just 300 feet above ground over the Provo Airport runway, and they made a loop. I'm going to show you a screenshot here this is from Flight Radar, so you can see that loop. And again, this is a military plane, a military contracted plane, and we know it's military because it's leaving from a military base, okay? Really interesting thing happening there. Mark, if you want to jump on right now just to describe this for all the women that are listening to this podcast, what we're seeing here with that chart on the bottom.
Happy to provide some mansplaining. So at the bottom, you can see the altitude and the airspeed of the plane. You see it take off, goes to level flight, and then you see it dip down in the middle there, and that's what we're looking at. The time on there says 3:16 p.m., but that's UTC. That's just the general time for airplanes. So you go back -6 hours to give you Utah time. So that gives us 9:16 a.m. And then it goes back up and then continues to Montana.
Okay, so it continued on to Kalispell, Montana, and then it lands for just under an hour before it again departs back for Texas. Once again, on its return trip, it dips again to just over 300 feet over the Provo Airport runway. We're going to show you that again. That this is from Flight Radar. That dip, I should tell you, because there has been a lot of speculation about it online. That took place approximately 26 minutes after Charlie was assassinated. So that dip took place 26 minutes after. And then the plane went back home, or back to the home base in El Paso. Now, it's possible, just to be fair here, that the plane was running a military training exercise that morning. Maybe they were training a new pilot on how to make a fake landing or something. I really don't know. But this flight path did indeed happen. We can confirm that. And it has been accurately reported that the plane is owned by a certain LASAI, LASAI LLC, regarding which there haven't been any more details provided because this has not exactly been the most transparent administration as they claimed they were going to be. The second mysterious flight, which was well reported on at the time, I would say this was the most reported upon flight, again, by the public, and which eventually created so much pressure that it warranted a response from one of the owners of the plane, who was Derek Maxfield. He's married to Shalane Maxfield. The two of them, they're a billionaire couple from Utah. They run a human sex trafficking charity. There's a lot of human sex trafficking charities in Utah. And I should let you guys know that they are not the only owners of that plane, by the way. Someone who didn't hit Internet Radar, who also co-owns that plane with them, is a person named Casey Baugh, Baugh. Now, I'm mentioning Casey Baugh because I found it when I was researching interesting that Casey Baugh has his name on an institute at UVU, the Baugh Entrepreneurship Institute, which operates out of the Woodbury Business Building. Okay, I was like, whoa. When we didn't know any details, I was thinking like, hey, did this person let somebody onto the rooftop? But of course, now we know that Tyler Robinson was not on the Woodbury building or on campus at all, for that matter. So Casey Baugh is not a suspect for having provided him access in any way. But I will say that the Baugh-Maxfield plane, I'm going to take you through what that was doing. It caught a ton of attention because the plane departed from Provo, Utah at 1:20 p.m. local time. In theory, then, of course, yes, a person could have shot Charlie Kirk, went straight to the airport, and then took off on a private plane. And why this got even more attention was because they seemingly turned their transponder off. That alarmed the public. Why is this plane terminating their transponder? Why can't we see more data happening on this plane, right? Being collected from this plane. So obviously this couple, Derek and Shalane Maxfield, were feeling the heat, and they issued a statement the following day, sometime in the afternoon, about 3 o'clock on September 11th. And they said that contrary to a lot of the online conspiracies that were taking shape, the plane was actually empty when it departed Provo en route to Arizona, where he and some of his friends were picked up and they returned home to Provo. Okay. Some people thought, did they pick up like Turning Point USA people and return back? We don't know at all, actually, who was on that flight manifest. In theory, it's not really our business, but of course, given this high-profile assassination, it feels like everything should be our business. Anyways, here's what he said specifically. I'm going to read his statement in its entirety for good measure. He wrote, Shalane and I join our community, our state, and our nation in mourning the death of Charlie Kirk, and we pray for his family and loved ones during this difficult and tragic time. His death and the way that it occurred was both horrifying and senseless. We pray that the extensive efforts by law enforcement to locate Mr. Kirk's killer will be swift and successful. Spoiler alert, no, it has not been. As often happens, unfortunately, in the wake of such terrifying and public events, a variety of baseless theories and suspicions around Mr. Kirk's murder immediately took hold on social media, including one that has unfairly impacted our family. To set the record straight, we provide the following facts.
says, seems a lot of strange things that happens in Utah. Man, you ain't even lying, bro. Hey, Georgia, I don't know if you thought Candace was really on here or not. But Candace ain't on here. We're just reacting. So go leave that comment under her video. Go lay down now. I'm done telling you I'm going to whoop your ass.
Yesterday at 1:20 p.m. Mountain Time.
Anyways, back to what I was going to say. It's strange because I haven't seen very much about Tyler Robinson in the news anymore. I haven't. And it's like, what happened? I mean, what happened to his trial? Have y'all noticed that? That he's not really in the news very much anymore? That he's not, like, his case isn't open to the public, really. So it's like they used him as a scapegoat and then let him go. I don't know.
Private aircraft owned by one of our companies with the tail number N888KG departed the Provo Airport for Page, Arizona, pursuant to a pre-scheduled flight plan. Occupants at takeoff included 2 pilots and no passengers. That tail number arrived at Page, Arizona Airport at approximately 1:55 p.m. Mountain Time. At 12:55 p.m. local time upon arrival, Derek Maxfield, boarded that plane along with 7 additional passengers for the return trip to Provo.
They say Tyler is a patsy. I mean, I kind of figured that after all the shit that Candace basically exposed about it. You know, Candace and Myron, what they exposed about it. I mean, we all kind of came to that conclusion. But it's like, if they're trying to paint him out as the assassin who killed Charlie, why is his case not open to the public, you know? It's weird and it's very fishy.
We departed that PGA airport in Arizona at approximately 1:40 and arrived at PVU at approximately 3:15 p.m. Mountain Time. Radar services with air traffic control were terminated in mutual agreement between Denver FAA Center and N888KG, approximately 10 miles from landing at PGA, which is consistent with generally accepted standard practice when flying in and out of non-towered airports like PGA. N888KG pilots followed all FAA requirements and protocols, tower directions, and a predetermined flight plan. This round trip was made at my request and solely for my purposes. Any suggestion that the flights by N888KG yesterday are in any way connected to the tragic shooting of Mr. Kirk is inaccurate, false, and without any credible basis of any kind. To our knowledge, no one associated with yesterday's flight by N888KG has been contacted by law enforcement for any reason. And then they just say, we ask that you just focus on bringing the people, bring Charlie Kirk to justice, the murder of Charlie Kirk, finding some justice in that. Okay, so a couple of interesting things. He admits that something like the services were terminated, but in compliance with law, so they didn't break the law when they did that at all. And what I can tell you is that I had a flurry of pilots that were working on getting details on that flight.
Let's say there are FBI agents that are complicit, starting from Kash Patel. You know, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. You know, the FBI has been very corrupt for a long time. And so I wouldn't be surprised if somebody has Trump by the balls and Kash Patel and say, hey, look, you're not going to say shit about this, otherwise we're going to kill your family. That's what I'm thinking. Candace is on something big. She's been on something big. But that's what I'm thinking happened. And I'm thinking that's why Trump hasn't really said very much. And I'm thinking that's why Kash Patel is just going with this bullshit ass story that he probably even knows is fake. Because their families are probably basically being held as blackmail. Saying if you say anything other than what we want you to say, we're going to kill your family. That's probably what it is. That's the only conclusion I can come up with. Because I know Trump isn't a bought-out politician. You can't buy Trump with money. Money does not appeal to him. He wants what's best for the country, but unfortunately, they're probably holding his family hostage. Not literally, but they've probably showed him pictures of his kids and shit in college and whatnot, and all types of crazy shit. Probably same thing with Cash Patel too. Says corruption runs deep. Man, they've been running deep for a long time.
Manifest confirming its landing, etc. And things got a little bit weird. They were saying that it was unusual, that stuff that was pretty standard protocol, the feds seemed to be guarding. Very strange. Now, I'm not saying this to implicate Derek Maxwell or Shailene Maxwell at all. In fact, I that's why I wanted to read their statement in their entirety. But I am telling you that the feds were guarding this just like they were guarding the Dairy Queen. It was weird. Even airport personnel had been instructed to lie, actually. Situation was therefore not routine. And if you haven't caught on, I'm not really here for all of these extraordinary anomalies that just keep happening, right? Information is power. We want the information so we can dispel the rumor. I don't see any reason, by the way, Derek and Shailene, if you want to reach out to me and tell me personally who's on the manifest, and I can just say, I actually haven't offered you that until this moment. I would be glad to dispel all the rumors and innuendo. If the feds are telling the airport to lie for some reason, there was one person who said they were supposed to land at Millionaire FBO, but then suddenly they shifted to another FBO and things were weird. I would be happy to clear up everything for you in a way that makes sense, and it could genuinely be because the government is so inefficient. Major point that I want to make here is that the biggest anomaly that has happened is this kind of foreign angle. Like right away, they just got out in front of it and were like, there's nothing to see here. And we discovered, and I broke the story, that there was actually a third plane, which I found to be quite odd. I reported on it, and the Zionists immediately seemed, to me, too panicked, right? They issued what I describe as a false debunking regarding the point that I was making. What they do in circumstances like that is when you say something that's really big, they focus on something really small and inconsequential, like an error that you made, and I did make in terms of time zones. And they go, oh, well, this has been debunked, right? It's been completely debunked. You saw this in the Brigitte case. She started going after people for defamation, not people that wasn't attacking them for the substance of the claim that you were born male, because she was, but rather she goes off after them, like she's going after me for saying, oh, well, actually, you're saying that I stole my sister's ID, and that's a crime, so I'm going to sue you for that. And then the media runs with it and says, oh, this has been debunked. Nothing is being debunked. And when they do that, when they focus on that, you know they're hiding something, okay? When they focus on something that's totally inconsequential, a minor mistake that you make, they're hiding something. So I reported that on the day of Charlie Kirk's assassination, an Egyptian Air Force plane took off from Provo, Utah airport. I reported that, even more curiously, that Egyptian military plane had previously only ever been to the United States twice in that past year, and both times it was in the weeks leading up to Charlie Kirk's assassination, okay? Here is that plane. The tail number you can see here is SUBTT, and this is a screenshot again from flight radar. Now, of course, when I pointed out that this foreign military plane arrived on September 4th, so 6 days before, into Provo, Utah, and departed 6 days later on September 10th, they ignored the huge substance of this, which is, why is this Egyptian military plane here in the middle of Utah? Instead, they said, oh, she made a time zone mistake, like as if I'm on flight radar every day, accustomed to reading the data here. Yeah, I thought that I was looking at mountain time, like a local time on flight radar. As Mark just explained, no, they do it according to universal time. Okay, big deal. Like, actually, big deal. Then I saw that the one random Twitter user that caught that mistake suddenly got boosted in the algorithm, and they made it a trending story.
It says, basic ballistics tell you that he was not shot by Tyler. I have learned from some Southern folk. Bro, I don't think Tyler could have shot him from that far in just one shot. And just maybe if he took like 6, 7 shots. Because for one, he was only 22 years old. Or he is only 22 years old. So there's no way in hell he could have as much experience with a rifle to be able to shoot from that far. I said it was like, what, 200 yards? Right? It's like, what, 2 football fields? It just doesn't seem plausible. It had to have been It had to have been, not even it had to have been, it was a professional hit. And I bet you what happened was either it was the dude that was running across the roof in that security cam footage, and the reason why they had it right there is because they knew the footage was going to be grainy. Or number two, they had Tyler run across the roof right there, and the other dude got down somewhere else. The dude that actually shot him. It's all types of crazy ass shit, bro.
Like, it was like, trending story, this has been debunked. And I was like, I've been telling you guys for a while, the military runs X, like not Elon Musk, the military. These are military bots that you're seeing on X. But that was essentially the vibe. Egyptian military plane, don't look over here. We have debunked it. It has nothing to do with Charlie Kirk conspiracy theory because she got the time zone wrong. It was actually, the flight departed a couple of hours earlier than she said. Okay. You know me. That just makes me more curious. Anytime you see a Snopes level debunking, as I like to term it, it means you're onto something. Anyways, I was going through the DCIA tips box, our decentralized intelligence agency tips box. I found a very interesting email. I'm going to be very careful here to make sure I don't give this person away, but it was someone from a foreign country. They wrote us claiming to have intimate knowledge regarding the flight. And you can take what I'm about to tell you to the bank, okay? In fact, you can even take this as a direct challenge to Kash Patel to dispute what I am going to say. Thus far, have you noticed that no one has done that? Like when I say something, like, oh, she must be lying. Oh, the screenshots must be fake because obviously Charlie didn't say this. Oh, the thing is lying about the Catholic thing. Oh, but nobody's doing any debunking here because I make sure always that I have solid proof of what I am saying before I say it. And I feel that I have been presented with absolute solid proof from this individual who was in proximity to one of the individuals that was aboard this flight, okay? I can now report to you that it is a fact that on 9/4, there were, this was not some dropping by in Utah as they were trying to claim because the plane needed to be serviced. That's what they ran with. They ran with, this could have been a routine servicing. I guess there's just no place from Egypt all the way to Utah that an Egyptian military plane can like get a tire changed. This is totally routine, nothing to see here. Well, I'm telling you that for a fact, that plane was carrying military subcontractors. And for a fact, they were dropped off in Provo, okay? And that they did not make it back to Cairo. I showed you the plane left. They left on September 10th. It then laid over in Wilmington, Delaware, and departed back for Cairo on the 11th. I am telling you that when that plane left, okay, those people were mysteriously missing from that plane, okay? What's going on here? Why are Egyptian military subcontractors, what are Egyptian military subcontractors doing in the middle of Provo, Utah on the day that Charlie Kirk was assassinated? Okay? Again, I am saying as a fact, Kash Patel, please feel free to dispute this. In fact, I almost demand that you dispute it. You must. You've been saying everybody's conspiracy theories. These conspiracies are dangerous. Thinking is dangerous. That aircraft was not in Utah for any routine servicing, okay? Rather extraordinarily, this person told me that it was there on some discreet mission. So discreet that this individual was scared for their life to present this information, but felt compelled to present it because they too were horrified, like the rest of the world. Again, the mistake that was made here was executing him publicly. People felt something, right? They felt something. They understood whatever happened here was a tremendous act of evil.
Oh yeah, that's a fact. Any type of public assassination like that is evil. But I'm curious as to what kind, like, who was on that plane that she's talking about and what their background is. That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, y'all really don't know who runs the world till you really open your eyes. See, because on the surface, casual people, everyday people, common people will just think that the world is run by the different governments of the countries and all this, that, and the third. But when you know the truth, you know it's people like the Illuminati, the Freemasons, Skull and Bones, all that. They all run the world, and they can sit there and deny it all they want to. You know, I've talked to a Freemason before, and he gives me the same bullshit story that they all give. Oh man, it's all about community service and being a better person and all blah 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 blah. And I'm just like, you can sit there and tell me that all you want, bro, but I already know what it is, and you can't make me think otherwise. Give me a second, y'all. I'll be right back. My dog is pissing me off. But anyways, so yes, you are right about Freemasons. They run the industry. They run a lot of shit in the world. Y'all can go look at like different celebrity stories or whatever. Like with them talking about people in black suits telling them they got to do this and do that, and they'll make them rich and famous. That's them buying your soul. That's them getting you to sell your souls to them. That shit is real.
And so what it led to was goodness, more people standing up and doing something brave and saying, we need to root out this evil from our society. What were they doing there? When did they leave? Who are these individuals? Well, I don't understand. Akash Patel, tell us about this flight. Tell us who was on it, okay? I wanted to be very thorough here in presenting this information, so I was like, let's actually upgrade our flight radar account so we can go back 3 years on this plane's flight history, which is really the max setting that you can have on flight radar if you have a business account. And here is what we pulled together for you guys so that you don't have to pay for a business account, which is way too expensive, especially for me who doesn't actually use flight radar often, but I am doing whatever I can to solve the murder of Charlie Kirk. Here it is, 3 years. You can see November in 2022, we can go back as far as November and December of that year. We can see that it routinely flies through Paris. And I noticed, and you can take your time to freeze this and go through everything because I'm not going to read it all. I noticed that the trend here is that it always flies to an Air Force base, okay? Look in 2025, if you look under 2025, you will see this is what it did. It went from September 4th, it went from Cairo to Paris to France to Minot, North Dakota. On September 10th, it departed Provo. I think I'm missing one here, right? It departed, that's right, September 10th, it departed Provo.
It says, we know about Patsy's. We had it 30 years ago. Google Martin Bryant. I'm going to have to check this shit out.
Provo, Utah, at 7:14 a.m. local time, okay? And I am telling you that aboard that plane, it was not the same people that got onto that plane, okay? That is what I am told by this individual. She is saying that what actually took place was that they had some Egyptian military subcontractors person that she knows intimately. I would not have taken this to the bank. I had to really walk her through having the courage to do this any further. And I am certain that this happened. And I am certain, I feel, and feel like the rest of us feel, that we are not getting a full picture. Now, I will again stress that this individual never, ever said that the mission, the secret mission, was related to Charlie Kirk. In fact, they were explicit that they weren't entirely sure what the specific mission was, but that it was top secret. Maybe playing devil's advocates, right? And to be clear, when you play devil's advocate, you're advocating for the devil. That's what I'm actually kind of doing here. But maybe it was a joint military exercise of some description that was so discreet that it required just like, everybody to ignore it, for the military to boost a random account, to pretend that it was nothing, to lie and pretend that this plane was here because it needed to be serviced in some capacity. That's not true. But maybe it was because, look, joint military exercise between Egypt and America for some unknown reason, and Provo, Utah was the place they had to do this, and they decided to leave this plane, and maybe people are still in Utah, I don't know, but I'm demanding that we find out, okay? And when you couple that information with what was trending yesterday, right? This is the headline that came out of the Daily Mail. Kash Patel shuts down Charlie Kirk foreign intelligence probe in an explosive feud with Trump's counter-terror chief. It really makes you wonder what Kash Patel is hiding. There's absolutely no reason for Kash Patel to say, only I'm the person that's supposed to be looking into this. It makes no sense. If he is interested in solving Charlie Kirk's murder, then Kash Patel would be working with everyone.
So there's two things I can think of for that. Number one being that Cash has something to hide, or he's been bought out, or blackmailed. Or number two, that he's mad other people are investigating it because he wants to quote unquote get to the bottom of it to be the one, so he can say that he was the one to solve the murder of a very public figure. Just so he can get brownie points for him being the FBI director. Those are the two things I can think of as to why he would behave like that. They're both plausible because we know that when he got the position of the FBI director, he acted like he had a lot to prove to the American people and to Trump too. You know, he was very proud when they arrested that old ass dude when he was saying, yeah, man, we got the shooter. And like, he was proud of it. So that tells me that he either has a lot that he thinks he has to prove, or he's been blackmailed and or bought out. That's my take on it.
Everyone across all departments would be locking arms and saying, Charlie Kirk was a wonderful friend. He did everything he could to put this administration into power. In fact, Trump would be late night tweeting, being like, I don't accept this narrative. Trump would be asking questions. His sons would be asking questions. Turning Point USA executives would be asking questions. But instead, Kash Patel is saying, don't ask questions. Everything that you're hearing is a conspiracy. The homie has really turned into Dr. Fauci. Okay? This is like Dr. Kash Patel Fauci here, who's telling us that to look any further would be somehow wrong to the legacy of Charlie Kirk. It would be harmful for us to ask questions. It would be harmful for us to think. That's what I'm saying. Stop thinking. So that's the phase that we are at, where people are trying to pretend that to protect Charlie's legacy, we have to say less. It's the exact opposite. We have to say more. And again, I am personally challenging you, Kash Patel, and your super transparent administration to dispute what I'm saying. Tell us in confidence that this plane came in by itself because it just needed to be serviced. You know, just nothing different from Egypt. Just needed to be.
But realized how corrupt everything is too late. You see, that's what I'm saying. It's the same thing with Trump. You know, Trump's first term in office was fucking amazing, boy. $1.16 a gallon for gas with 86-cent loaves of bread was crazy, and I loved it. And it just seems like he's way more restrained in this term. It seems like all he can do right now is damage control. And I hope and pray that they have a plan to get out of whatever control they're under right now, to really free the minds of the American people. Because if not, then we're just going to be even more fucked. Unless the people come together as one and say no more government, we are going to be fucked.
You know, put some fuel in the tank and then go home. Answer the questions that we were asked.
So you are very insightful. I appreciate it. I always try to look at things from a much bigger picture. You know, I don't really dismiss any kind of possibility unless it legit just doesn't make any fucking sense at all. You know, I try to consider all angles. Say Trump owes big time. It's not even that Trump owes big time. It's we need to stop relying on government so damn much. Because look at where, I'm just being real. Look at where it's gotten us. Look at where where relying on the government has gotten us. It's gotten over, what is it, 250 million or like 50 million or something. It's somewhere in the millions of people are going to be fucked without food stamps because they've gotten so reliant on the government. So many people have gotten their minds fucked because they rely so much on the media to tell them what's going on instead of going out there in the real world and seeing what's going on for themselves. So many people have become mind fucked, become reliant on the government protecting them, that now the government wants to take away your guns. So many people have become reliant on the government that now it's shut down until the Democrats get what they want. What they want is free health care for illegal immigrants. And it's like, dude, no. What about free health care for veterans, the ones who are on the streets, even the ones who aren't on the streets? What about them, huh? You know, what about free health care for physically and mentally disabled people? What about them? Nope, they don't give a damn about them. It's just fucking stupid.
I am telling you, I feel it, that this flight, if we learn more about it, if we can figure out who is on this manifest, there is going to be a lot of questions that are answered in terms of what happened on September 10th, okay? I'm not positive, but I have a pretty good gut feeling that the way that they behaved when I pointed out this flight, which is to lie and to explain nothing, means that they are scared and it has them shook. And of course, it's in the Middle East. So I'm thinking there might have been some foreign involvement in Charlie Kirk's assassination. Anyways, you guys, we are going to take a break and then put you through a Seth Dillon level struggle session to explain to you that the best way to honor Charlie Kirk is to cancel Tucker Carlson. Anyways, we'll be right back. Jumping in here to tell you guys about Freeborn. You know I love them. I've watched like dollar. I have just a friend is hand one at American Air Bases. I did mansplaining in my ear, and he is right. I want to make sure that I speak perfectly. When I said that the Egyptian flight in its past flights to America had landed on American air bases, I didn't mean they physically landed on American air bases. I meant that they landed in cities where there are Air Force bases. And the notable exception here is that Provo does not have an Air Force base. They have one in Salt Lake City, but they do not have one in Provo. So I hope that makes more sense there. Now let's switch gears. I can't wait to see what you guys dig up. I also should add that if you know someone else on this flight manifest, guys, I don't care where you are in the world, as this person just proved. Doesn't matter where you are. If you have information, please email us at moretips@CandaceOwens.com pertaining to this Egyptian flight, this military flight. What was it doing? Maybe you checked them in at a hotel nearby, right? Maybe they were over the border and you saw randomly a bunch of people leading up to this between those dates. Let's see, it landed into Provo on 9/4, and then it departed on 9/10. There must have been hotels, presumably. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're staying with certain friends. Let me know. Did you see some Egyptian-looking dudes in Utah? I feel like they would stand out in Utah, maybe, right? I think they definitely would. Please let us know. More tips at CandaceOwens.com. It is really amazing to see the whole world come together trying to solve this. It just makes me so happy. All right, jumping into this rather hilarious story, irrespective of whether or not you personally support the nation of Israel or not, I most certainly do not. You've got to admit that the public representatives of Israel, the Zionists that have platforms, are insane. I'm talking clinically insane, need to be shipped off to rehab for a couple of weeks, Malibu, maybe get you next to the sea or something. And they have come undone. They've never actually really been done on the topic of Tucker Carlson or myself, but this is exceptional. The backstory here is that Tucker Carlson, in case you missed it, hosted Nick Fuentes on his show. And to be clear, I've hosted Nick Fuentes on my show. I don't like Nick Fuentes, and truly, not because of anything he said in the past, because how he treated me and my team and how he lied on me after it. So I actually am judging him based on my experience with him, okay? I don't really believe in cancel culture, and is why I platformed him in the first place. He said something when he was 18 and went through the gamut that I went through, that Tucker's going through right now. You know, I'm a 36-year-old adult, and I'm equipped to handle that. Not so fair for an 18-year-old kid to go through that. I've been clear about that, and that person should get a second chance to explain their story. So Tucker invited him on to have a conversation, and this has led to people insisting that Tucker Carlson gets canceled from all Turning Point future events. Now, why are they saying he should be canceled? Well, because it's so dangerous that he platformed Nick Fuentes, who has said terrible things online, and Nick Fuentes has been adversarial to Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk didn't like Nick Fuentes, so why is Tucker Carlson speaking to him? Like, that's their logic. I spoke to him. I don't like Nick Fuentes. I speak to people I don't like to.
Here's the thing about that. That Charlie Kirk stood for mature, open dialogue, conversations, and or debates. So what these dumbasses don't realize by saying the best way to honor Charlie Kirk is to cut Tucker Carlson from all the TPUSA events is that what Tucker just did is the exact same thing that Charlie would have done. He would have brought Nick Fuentes on to talk with him, to debate him, and but y'all are so emotional that you become retarded. Straight up. And tell me I'm wrong. I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. I know I'm not wrong because Charlie was very supportive of having open dialogue debates. The exchange of ideas, the free exchange of ideas and viewpoints, which is something that he would have done with Nick Fuentes too if he ever got the chance. I don't know if he did or not. I don't think he did. But, like, y'all are stupid, bro.
The whole time, actually. It's a good thing to do.
Not y'all in the chat, but whoever's saying that they need to cancel Tucker Carlson, y'all are stupid.
You should get out and speak to people who you disagree with, people who you dislike. It's okay to dislike people. It's not okay to demand that other people be canceled for hosting them and having a conversation with them, or maybe liking the person. Maybe you'll want to listen to him. Anyways, this led to Josh Hammer, who is our resident psycho, who really does look like that. Like, that's not AI, okay? That's not AI. He wrote
The dude looked like an ugly, naked mole rat with an old-ass beard.
an op-ed in the Daily Mail, which they actually published, calling for Tucker Carlson to be neutralized. Yeah, this is him, the guy who mysteriously calls for public executions the night before, and then he always backtracks and goes, hey, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant when I said that. He actually published his op-ed, says Tucker Carlson just hit a new low with his heinous betrayal of my friend Charlie Kirk, who is surely now rolling in his grave. Yes, you're right. Is this the same Josh Hammer you're thinking who lied about Charlie's views on Israel changing, even though he was on the text message chain? He lied over and over and over again, plus tried to sell his book. Is he actually writing an op-ed claiming that it is Tucker Carlson who is apparently heinous? Yes, he's doing that. This is a direct quote from that op-ed. He wrote,
time to go to work. I was like, who the fuck is Tim, bro? Okay, time to go to work. Keep going. You really understand. Hey, I appreciate you for tapping in, Georgia. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon. That way you get notified every time I go live, man. We be watching all types of shit. Mostly like, oh no, you good. Mostly like, Candace and conspiracy type shit. When it comes to conspiracies, I be diving deep down the rabbit hole. And who better to do that than Candace? All right, man. Hey, have fun at work. Don't work too hard.
This looks like a war on MAGA and the modern American right. If this looks like a war on MAGA and the modern American right, that's because that's exactly what it is. Carlson and his clan have declared their jihad not on the woke forces of civilizational arson on the addle-brained left, but on the forces of civilizational sanity on the MAGA right. They hope to burn down MAGA and build a neo-pagan, anti-Western, anti-biblical movement in its stead. The fox is now comfortably ensconced in the henhouse, and unless the fox is neutralized, the victim could be the entire extant GOP coalition itself. He actually wrote that. He published that. And it's just incredible because you will notice this thing that all of the people who are now saying that they represent the MAGA movement weren't in it. They are literally people that were the Never Trump movement in 2015. None of them. They're like, we've infiltrated MAGA, and now we're going to tell you how to turn it into the losing movement that we all represented. Here's how you do it. Censorship, right? We infiltrated MAGA. We hated Trump forever. In fact, these people were all pro-DeSantis, even when Trump was up against Ron DeSantis, okay? They were against Trump.
What it do, man?
They've held the line in hating Trump forever. And now that Trump is inevitable, meaning he's in office and there's nothing they can do about it and he's not going to be reelected, they're pretending that they support Trump and that they're super MAGA by demanding that MAGA cancels Tucker Carlson, who is adored and loved by the MAGA base, of course. Now, if you think it can't get any more ridiculous, you got to check out this very real tweet from the Stop Anti-Semitism hysterical account. That account awarded me last year the top anti-Semite of the year. Thank you for all of you who voted and made sure that they actually didn't give me an award, which feels pretty cheap to me.
How the hell Nick didn't get that award, bro? Top anti-Semite of the year? And you telling me that Nick ain't get that shit, bro? That is crazy.
Please don't put me on your account for saying cheap. I'm sure that's not good. Anyways, Stop Anti-Semitism actually tweeted this. CNN platforming Anna Kasparian. Turning Point USA refusing to cut Tucker Carlson. This is how the Holocaust started. Jew hatred normalized. I don't know. Is that actually how the Holocaust started? I'm asking. I'm asking for a friend. Maybe I need to be re-educated here. Is that what happened?
I'll tell you how the Holocaust really started. Is it really started by taking the guns and the rights away from the citizens. That's how it started. Now, I know y'all will say whatever the fuck it was, this, that, and the third. I don't care. If you take away the guns and the rights of the citizens, there's nothing that won't happen to the people of that country.
Tucker Carlson, someone like Tucker Carlson just had a conversation with someone that he disagrees with. Anna Kasparian went on to like CNN, and that was it. Then there was a Holocaust, and it has to be stopped. I mean, it's not even good. The level of emotional manipulation here isn't even good. It's obviously funny. You should laugh because it's hilarious. They're not good anymore. Were we convinced by this before? Probably. Maybe we all thought every time you mention the Holocaust, you go, oh, I must do my part to make sure it doesn't happen. But to hear them say this in this ridiculous and absurd manner, we have to recognize that this has always been a manipulation tactic. That's exactly what it is. They are trying to manipulate us to censor people, and we're not going to do it. Anyways, Seth Dillon, another resident psycho on X, who pretended once upon a time he was like a funny guy just telling jokes, went on to Piers Morgan and decided to put Dave Smith, who I love, through a struggle session, explaining why. And yes, this is the same Seth Dillon at that notorious Hamptons summit, who I told you pressed Charlie, and a couple of weeks before he died, was horrific to Charlie, made Charlie feel as if he was suddenly sitting down and being told that his viewpoints had changed. It was unacceptable. It was a total peer pressure event, or wound up being that in large part thanks to Seth Dillon, who was leading the pack on questioning Charlie on his changing views. Anyways, he has the audacity to put Dave Smith through a struggle session discussing this interview. Let's watch a clip of it.
I think that it would have been a responsible thing and a good thing for the conservative movement if someone as prominent as Tucker, with as large of audiences he has, if he was standing in the way of Nick Fuentes becoming more mainstream. I think that would be a good thing for everybody. And I'm disappointed that it didn't come. But he's free to do whatever he wants to do.
Okay,
I'm free to criticize him for not handling the interview the way that I think it should have been responsibly handled. I think it was extremely irresponsible.
Okay.
What the fuck do you mean handle the interview, bro? See, these kinds of people will sit there and talk down on what you do, but they would never do it themselves. These types of people be talking from the sidelines, from the stands, with pom-poms in their hands. You can't make it up, bro. The way it should have been handled. You need to go ahead and handle yourself, homie. Put a leash on yourself. Chain yourself up to a pole. How about that?
Okay. Certainly you're free. You're free to criticize that. I would say that for all the people, by the way, who are so upset that Candace and Nick Fuentes have become so huge, like honestly, dude, just talking to guys like you have no one but yourself to blame for that. It's all over the Israel issue, man. And the reason why they got so much support behind them is because they were against this destruction of Gaza. It was just like the most just horrible, inexcusable thing ever. But
I mean, that's a fact. It was low-hanging morality. Hey, I'm against killing children. They tried to put all of us through, how dare you, Candace, you're an anti-Semite for saying or not looking the other way because they're Palestinians. I guess I'm supposed to think that their life is not worth as much as an Israeli life. Like one Israeli life is equivalent to 1,000 Palestinian children or something. And I rejected that. And I've been pretty principled across the board on all matters. And that is why I think my audience grew. Certainly didn't grow because I was telling other people they had to shut up. I'm not a part of cancel culture. I don't care. I got into it with Nick Fuentes, and everyone said, cancel him, kick him off Twitter. Someone needs to do this. If I feel that my ideas are better than something or someone, if I feel that my ideas are valid, I'll see you in the free markets. But these people can't win in the free markets, so now they're demanding censorship. And it's going to get, by the way, a lot worse than this starting point. We'll get into that in a little bit. But first, I want to let you watch this second clip of what Seth Dillon, who clearly does not have a soul after waiting to Charlie, clearly is trying to pretend that he's Charlie's friend and now trying to use Charlie's legacy by pretending that somehow Tucker Carlson is not a true friend to Charlie because Charlie didn't like Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson spoke to him. Watch this. Truly, this is a psychological operation. These people are nutty. Take a listen.
Do you understand how feminine this motherfucker just sounded by saying that? Let's listen to how he said it, and we're gonna hear how he said it. I guarantee you, he's gonna sound like a high school girl mad because one of her homegirls went and fucked her crush or something.
I want to know what Dave thinks about Tucker essentially calling Charlie Kirk a heretic by saying that anybody who's a Christian Zionist is a heretic. I mean, that was Charlie Kirk, was it not?
Okay, but I mean, I think obviously he's speaking about evangelical Christians in general and saying that this violates the Bible, like to make it about.
Yeah,
Charlie Kirk
that's
like
a circle that
really
Charlie
cheap
Kirk
point.
fits inside. It applies to him.
Okay, but so he's criticizing a view that Charlie Kirk had. Yeah, I disagreed with Charlie on that too. So what's your point?
He said he hates those people more than he said he hates those people more than anybody else and called them heretics. And yet he spoke at Charlie Kirk's memorial so glowingly. How do you reconcile those two things?
Yeah, he obviously didn't hate Charlie Kirk. There you go. This is come on. This is like ridiculous. Yes, he's making a point that he thinks that actually the Christians who put Israel above their own government and believe that like only Jesus can come back if the Jews control the area, that is goofy, and I agree.
Yeah. Well, if you say you hate people that have Charlie's views, then you're saying you hate Charlie.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't.
If that's the argument you want to go with, okay.
Actually, the argument I'd like to go with is that Seth Dillon is a liar, which is why 2 days before Charlie Kirk was killed, he was explicit in saying he was left with no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause, which would mean he didn't die a Christian Zionist, right? Common sense, Charlie in his own words, and Seth Dillon, you're aware of this because you put him through 2 weeks before the struggle session in the Hamptons, what was it, August 5th and 6th, pressing him on the...
I'm not gonna lie, bro, listening to him just say all that kind of brain fucked me. Am I tripping, or do y'all feel the same way?
things that he said about Bibi Netanyahu. He was hosting people to have that discussion. But, you know, I guess for some Zionists, you would say it was almost fortunate that Charlie Kirk is no longer here to take that last step that you knew he was taking. You didn't want another Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens, people who were very much in the pro-Israel camp, and left it because we could not stand your immorality, we could not stand your lies, and we could not possibly think that God's chosen people would allow it. Okay, God's chosen people don't lie. God's chosen people don't kill hundreds of thousands of people and then try to tell you that they're the victim because they're spending tons of money on Christian Zionists. And yes, it is absolutely a heresy to get up on stage and to lie about what is in the Bible, to try to use it to manipulate people and tell them that what's right here in the Bible is that they shouldn't follow Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens. And yes, I would deem you to be, therefore, a heretic. So I hope I'm clear about what I think you are. Right? People of your ilk are people that pretend to be Christians and make a ton of videos, some of them simply because they're paid to do so, some of them because they're in the military and these are their instructions, and manipulate people who are well-meaning and want to become close to God by telling them that they won't be saved unless they support this abomination in the Middle East. So, anyways, this leads us, of course, Charlie's last words in that text chain.
God's chosen people for what? So, I don't know if you're familiar with the Bible or not, but God chose Abraham to be the forefather of the nation that God would use to make himself known to the world through them. That's what they mean by God's chosen people. And because as time went on, they became more and more rebellious and more sinful. And God knew it was going to happen. He knew it was going to happen. He knew all this shit was going to happen. He prophesied about the coming of the Messiah and the sacrifice and the cross and all that multiple times in the Old Testament. And so Jesus came later on in time, the Messiah, the Son of God, and he taught people the way that they're supposed to. He taught, Jews and Gentiles. He taught them both the way that he had made them to be originally. But he also was the sacrificed lamb so that humanity as a whole could be reconciled to God. because God said that the wages of sin is death. Meaning that if you were to pay the fines for your sinful acts, it would be death. What is death to God? Separation from God, meaning you'd burn in hell. But because God loves humanity so much, we were created in his image, he sent his son to die for us to pay those wages. And he rose again on the third day and ascended back to heaven to sit at the right hand of God. And he was born into the Jewish nation. But when he died, his sacrifice, his blood, became available for all peoples all over the world, not just the Jews.
He fought tooth and nail to make sure that Tucker Carlson stayed on the Turning Point USA speaking list. That's the reality, okay? That's the reality. Those were virtually his last public words that we can read from his...
And don't get it twisted. The people that are in charge over there in Israel, I don't think are the real Jews. Yeah, he was the people that Jesus was born into, the Jews, are the same people that betrayed him and had him crucified. Because the Pharisees thought that the Messiah was supposed to be this great warlord that was going to free them from Rome and all the other oppression in the world. But the Messiah came to free them from sin, from spiritual death, not physical death, but spiritual death. And the Pharisees didn't like that idea at all. They thought they knew how everything was supposed to be. They thought that they thought they knew more than God did, basically. And so they wanted him killed because he was preaching the gospel. He was performing miracles. It said, people have told me that Jews will forever pay for the death of Jesus. It's not all Jews. That's what people got to understand, is that it's not all Jews. Certainly there were a lot of them, and during that time wanted him dead. Because he was going against what the Pharisees taught. When Jesus came, well, I'm not. When Jesus came, he taught a new way to live. And that new way was more spiritually than it was physically. And the Pharisees thought, that ain't how we supposed to live. Now, what they wrote in the Talmud, I've never really read the Talmud. I've heard a couple of things here and there. I've read a couple of things about it on the internet. But I've never dove into it myself, just quite frankly because I don't care for it. But they think that when Jesus died, that he went to hell and is covered in human, and basically covered in human shit. Which is absolutely insane. I think, where'd that comment go? But the Pharisees did not like how Jesus was throwing a wrench in what they were teaching. And so they had him crucified by Rome. They convinced Rome that he was a threat. And so Rome had him crucified. Which is crazy because even Pilate himself, the Roman governor of Jerusalem at the time, said that he found nothing wrong. He found no fault in Jesus and what he was saying. But the people of Israel, not all of them, the Pharisees and those amongst them, told him, we want you to crucify him. And what's crazy about it is this was right before Passover. And so during the festival times, he said, we would reach God individually rather than through them. Exactly. That's what they didn't like. One of the things they didn't like. But during the times of the festivals, the Romans would release a prisoner to them out of the quote unquote goodness of out of the festival spirit or whatever. And so there was I think he was either a murderer or a thief. I think he was a murderer. His name is Barabbas. The Pharisees and the Jews that were with them wanted Barabbas freed, who was a man convicted of murder, and wanted Jesus dead, a man who was convicted of raising a man from the dead and healing sickness and blindness. Crazy. It's crazy stuff. But I definitely recommend that you go get a Bible and you read it. There's going to be probably a lot of stuff that you don't understand. But it's very... You'll see how everything connects.
Private text exchanges was that he wanted Tucker Carlson. And now you're trying to convince us that the best way to honor him would be not to listen to what Charlie Kirk himself said. This leads us to another episode of our new smash hit HBO series, micro series, which I executively produce. Take a listen.
And he basically said, I don't appreciate being morally blackmailed. And, and every time people would say that to him, he would dig his heels in. It's like, well, maybe Tucker's going to get 2 speeches out at best.
She's got the screenshots from an internal chat that Charlie was doing with TP USA. And right up there, it says, just lost another huge Jewish donor, $2 million a year, because we won't cancel Tucker. And I'm thinking of inviting Candace. Whoa!
A few moments later.
It brings me no pleasure to criticize Tucker Carlson as much as I have been doing.
Oh, this dude is lying his ass off. They say, we will always have a Pharisee in our life when we are chasing greatness. That's a fact.
But he has become the leading tip of the spear of what can only be described.
This dude looks like a more gay version of Ben Shapiro.
As a cancerous force, threatening to engulf the entire American right.
They just can't stop, man. They just cannot curb that Zionism. They can't do it. We'll see. We'll keep notations on these individuals. Anyways, I wanted to read this email that came in because yesterday in the Q&A section, somebody had asked, what do you think Charlie meant when he said he wanted you to be as David? And I took the obvious answer, which was to slay a Goliath, right? To slay the Goliath. And somebody wrote me this email and reminded me, of course, of the narrative beyond David slaying Goliath, David and his unique friendship with Jonathan in the Bible. And I am going to read that email to you. Somebody wrote, Candace, David and Jonathan were biblical figures from the Bible who shared a deep and profound friendship, forming a covenant of mutual support. Jonathan was the son of King Saul, and David was a shepherd who became a great warrior and future king. Their bond was strong, despite the fact that Saul became jealous of David's success, leading him to threaten David. Their bond, the friendship, began after David defeated Goliath and grew into an unlikely but profound friendship. The Bible describes Jonathan's loving David as, quote, his own soul, and forming a covenant with him. Jonathan's loyalty was so great that he gave David his robe, his armor, and other symbols of rank, an act that has been interpreted as a transfer of succession. Jonathan repeatedly protected David from his father, Saul, warning him of the king's intentions to kill him. After Jonathan's death, David grieved deeply for his friend. He later honored his promise to Jonathan by taking care for his son. I love that. I actually love that interpretation that I didn't even consider in that moment when I answered that question. And I just love it. I just wanted to say thank you to the person who wrote the email.
The reason why Saul was so pressed about David was because beforehand, God told Saul what he wanted him to do with the Philistine encampment. Okay, back when Samuel was the prophet, God told Samuel, you are to tell Saul to kill everyone and everything because these people are evil. They have been rendered judgment. They were to die. They were to pay the wages of their sin, so to speak. And so Saul went and they killed almost everybody. He kept the king and his wife. Well, I don't know if it was a king or if it was a army general, or the Bible doesn't necessarily. I don't think the Bible specifies. It might have. I got to go back and read it. But he took captive a man and a woman, a pregnant woman, and a bunch of sheep. And God was displeased with this because he told him directly, I want you to kill all these people because they are evil. And he didn't listen. And so because he didn't listen, he directly disobeyed God. He said, I'm going to strip you from your power because you are stubborn. You don't listen to me. Basically. And so Saul was pressed about that. And so Saul was tormented by evil spirits. And then God told Samuel, I want you to go out and find another young man to anoint as king. And he led him to the house of, I can't remember the name of his father. But David was out pasturing the sheep. And God led Samuel there and told him he wanted him to anoint him. So he brought David back to the camp, back to where King Saul was, so he could play the harp in his court to soothe his soul. And ever since then, Saul was pressed, low-key pressed. It grew more and more over time. You better be quiet. And it grew even more when Saul seen David kill Goliath. Because he was like, holy shit. He could kill me if he wanted to and take my crown. And it got to the point to where Saul really felt threatened that he would literally chase David across Israel and went rogue and lost his mind trying to kill David to protect his legacy. And Saul ended up dying in battle with the Philistine army anyways. And that's when Jonathan died.
And then you consider that it really is about honoring your friend and properly grieving for your friend and realizing that you will not be able to be perceived as someone who even cared about the individual if you don't fight for them, if you don't stand up for them, if you don't look after their legacy, take care of their legacy. Don't allow these people like the Josh Hammers and the Seth Dillons to try to invade and quite literally turn Charlie Kirk into someone he is not for a single second. Do I believe that Charlie would have considered shutting down Tucker Carlson because he sat down with Nick Fuentes? It is so beyond the realm of possibility that it is sickening to watch them do this. It really shows you, for those of you that are in my book club, what I was talking about when we read that last book, about how they do this after death. They fight for the person's legacy, even though they were the very same people who were harassing them, the very same people that were making Charlie ill with the threats, with the money, who were pressing him at the Hamptons. Seth Dillon, Josh Hammer on the text, hearing what he was going through, seeing what he was going through, will then say, oh, I proclaim myself in charge of that person's legacy.
You know why they do that? Is because they want to rewrite that person's legacy to fit their narrative. Oh, hold on, y'all. Fucking hell, dude. But they want to rewrite that person's legacy to fit their narrative. That's what they want.
It's twisted. It's very, very twisted. But everybody can see it. There's no doubt that everybody can see it. All right, guys, I want to run for you one more time before I get into your comments. Tomorrow we're going to be dropping this amazing episode, me having sat down with Norm Finkelstein. So take a listen.
The Economist magazine, it describes Gaza as, quote, a human rubbish heap.
Hijacking legacy. Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
The leading UN official on Gaza describes it as, quote, a toxic dump. For the people of Israel, Gazans are vermin. They're garbage. They're human refuse.
You guys were the ones that insisted that we all have a perspective on October 7th. Then we looked and we pierced that veil. We went, oh my goodness, how was I ever pro-Israel? And now you want us to shut up.
There's a problem here. A billionaire class of Jewish supremacists are now flagrantly using money as a blackmail weapon to silence not just criticism of Jews, but silence criticism of an ongoing genocide.
I am very, very, very excited about that. You're going to love it. It's like I said, even if you support Israel, and that is perfectly your right, I think that you will become educated on a topic that has been, by and large, guarded by the mainstream media. I think Americans have been
So Norman is amazing. See him debating Rabbi Shmuley. Shmuley sounds like Shmuel. That's crazy. I've never heard of Norman Finkelstein, whatever the hell his name is. I've never heard of him. Something that I have to check out.
extremely ignorant because I was among them. I was extremely ignorant on this topic. I think Jewish Americans are ignorant on this topic too, because that's how this was designed. That's how this whole like pro-Israel matrix was designed, to keep us dumb. Just want to shout out before we go to some more sponsors that somebody just dropped $500 to say this comment, and it's hilarious. They wrote, "I can't with Josh Hammer's lip gloss. You go, queen." It is, yeah, it's not a good look. I don't think it's
I told y'all, this dude looked like a gayer version of Ben Shapiro. I guarantee you, I can almost guarantee you, this is the feeling that I have, that if you were to look at the John F. Kennedy files and his assassination, there's probably going to be correlating names or entities that has to do with Charlie Kirk. I bet you there would be some correlating names or entities that had to do with Charlie Kirk that did with John F. Kennedy. Because, I mean, basically they stood for the same thing, just in a different way. Charlie Kirk stood for the idea of freedom of speech, the free exchange of ideas and thoughts and debates. And he stood for God. John F. Kennedy stood for freedom by way of basically getting rid of the central banking system and trying to go back to a gold-backed currency and trying to get rid of the federal, all that bullshit that Trump was trying to do in his first term that I don't think he'll be able to do in this term, because like I said before, I think the reason why Trump hasn't said anything about Charlie Kirk right now is because somebody, probably a shadow entity. When I say shadow entity, I mean like the shadow government, fucking Illuminati, I don't care who it is. Somebody is probably blackmailing him with his family, saying, if you say this, we're going to kill your family. Same thing with Kash Patel. That's what I think. I don't think Trump is bought out. I think that they have forced his hand with his own family on certain things. That's probably what it is. Because they understood, man, I can't buy this person because he's already rich. Money don't mean nothing to a rich person. You can't buy a rich person with money. Cruising a few good minutes. Just want the truth. Or cruising a few good men. I just want the truth. Jack Nicholson replies, you can't handle the truth. Interesting. A lot of people can't handle the truth. There's so many people that are still stuck inside the matrix that if they were told the truth, they would literally fucking melt. Other people who would just brush it off. It's crazy. A Few Good Minutes movie. I kind of figured it was, because the name Jack Nicholson is like, sounds. I don't know if it's a character or an actor. But either way, I've heard the name before. So yeah, that's what I think is going on with Trump and Cash. And I bet there's going to be a correlating name or entities with John F. Kennedy and Charlie Kirk. They would be insane. Military movie, word. Hell yeah. But anyways, with that being said, I appreciate y'all for tapping in, man. It's getting pretty late where I'm at. It's about to be 2 o'clock in the morning. So make sure y'all share with your friends, your families, your mummies, your aunties, your grannies, and everybody else that y'all know. And I'm out. The truth will cause chaos. The truth always causes chaos, man. Because there's people that don't want to believe it and people that try to hide it. And it will drive them to do insane things. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, tap the bell icon so you get notified every time I go live and upload a video. And I'm out. Deuces.